Darkness enveloped Raj's apartment. Silence, broken only by the ticking clock. 2 o'clock in the morning. Suddenly, a sharp ring pierced the night. The doorbell. Startled, Raj sat up in bed, heart pounding. Who would visit at this hour? Fear coiled in his stomach. He crept to the door, peering through the peephole. No one. He cautiously opened the door, a sliver of light illuminating the empty hallway. He stepped outside, scanning the shadows. Nothing. The hair on his neck prickled with unease. He called out, his voice a shaky whisper. "Hello? Anyone there?" Only silence answered. Closing the door, Raj leaned against it, chest heaving. He decided to call the police, his voice trembling as he reported the strange occurrence. The operator assured him a patrol car would be there soon. He hung up, a knot of dread tightening in his gut. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Finally, the wail of sirens pierced the night. Relief washed over Raj as he opened the door to two uniformed officers. He explained the situation, his voice still shaky. They listened patiently, then checked the hallway and stairwell. Finding nothing unusual, they reassured Raj it was probably a prank. As they left, one officer advised him to invest in a security system. Raj thanked them, closing the door with a sigh. He tried to shake off the lingering unease, telling himself it was just a silly prank. He tried to go back to sleep, but the image of the empty hallway kept flashing in his mind. The silence of the apartment felt heavier now, pregnant with unseen menace. Raj tossed and turned, unable to shake the feeling that he was not alone. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of curtains, sent shivers down his spine. Sleep evaded him. He was trapped in a nightmare of his own making. As the first rays of dawn pierced through the curtains, Raj finally drifted into a restless sleep. He was plagued by nightmares, fleeting images of shadowy figures and whispers that sent chills down his spine. He woke up with a start, drenched in cold sweat, the nightmare clinging to the edges of his mind. He tried to shake off the lingering terror, but a sense of unease clung to him like a shroud. The events of the night replayed in his mind, amplifying his fear. He decided to take a walk, hoping the fresh air would clear his head. As he stepped outside, the sunlight seemed to offer little comfort. The streets were bustling with life, but Raj felt strangely detached, like an outsider looking in. His reflection in a shop window caught his eye. He looked pale and drawn, his eyes haunted by the night's events. He looked away quickly, a shiver running down his spine. He was a stranger to himself, lost in a labyrinth of fear and paranoia. Back at his apartment, Raj tried to distract himself. He made coffee, read the news, but nothing could penetrate the wall of fear that had built around him. He kept replaying the night's events in his mind, each time noticing something new, something sinister that he had overlooked before. The silence of the apartment, once comforting, now felt oppressive, filled with unspoken threats. He found himself drawn to the mirror, as if searching for answers in his own reflection. But the face that stared back at him was a stranger, haunted, fearful, a stark contrast to the man he thought he was. As he stared at his reflection, a terrifying thought took root in his mind. What if he was not alone in his apartment? What if the visitor was still there, lurking in the shadows, watching his every move? Days turned into nights, each one a chilling echo of the last. The doorbell remained silent, but the fear lingered, a constant companion. Raj became a prisoner in his own home, too terrified to venture out alone, his life shrinking to the confines of his apartment walls. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched, hunted by something unseen. He saw shadows lurking in the corners of his eyes, heard whispers in the dead of night. His past, a tapestry of regrets and bad decisions, returned to haunt him. He had made enemies, hurt people, and now, it seemed, his past was coming back to exact its due. He remembered the faces of those he had wronged, their expressions a mixture of anger and pain. Was one of them behind this torment? The guilt and fear gnawed at him, pushing him further into the abyss of despair. One night, as Raj sat huddled in his darkened living room, he heard a noise. A soft, almost imperceptible sound, like footsteps outside his door. His breath caught in his throat. His heart pounded against his ribs. He froze, listening intently. The sound came again, closer this time. Someone was outside his door. He rose slowly, his legs trembling, and crept towards the door, his hand hovering over the peephole. He took a deep breath and looked through the peephole. His blood ran cold. Standing in the dimly lit hallway was a man. Tall, with his back to Raj, wearing a dark coat and a hat pulled low over his face. It was impossible to make out his features, but Raj knew, with a certainty that chilled him to the bone, that it was him. His doppelganger. His heart pounded in his ears as he watched the figure raise a hand and slowly turn towards the peephole. Raj stumbled back from the door, his mind reeling. He had seen his own face staring back at him from the hallway, a grotesque mockery of his own fear. Or had he? Was it real, or a figment of his increasingly fragile sanity? The line between reality and delusion blurred, and he was no longer sure what to believe. He paced his apartment, his mind racing, his thoughts a chaotic jumble of fear and paranoia. Sleep became an impossible dream. He was trapped in a waking nightmare, haunted by shadows and whispers, by the chilling certainty that he was not alone. He began to see his doppelganger everywhere, in the reflection of windows, in the flickering shadows of the television, always watching, always lurking just out of reach. His world shrunk to the size of his apartment, his fear a suffocating presence. The phone rang, shattering the oppressive silence. Raj jumped, his heart hammering against his ribs. He stared at the ringing phone, hesitant to answer. The ringing stopped, replaced by an eerie silence. Then, it started again. This time, it was accompanied by a soft knocking on the door. He backed away from the sound, his eyes darting around the room, searching for an escape. He stumbled over a chair, knocking it over with a loud crash. The knocking stopped. Silence descended again, heavier this time, pregnant with menace. He held his breath, listening intently. He could hear his own pulse pounding in his ears, each beat a deafening roar. Then he heard it. A soft, almost imperceptible click, like a key turning in a lock. The police found Raj's body 2 days later. The door was unlocked, the apartment empty. There was no sign of forced entry, no struggle. It looked as if Raj had simply vanished into thin air. The only clue was his phone, found lying on the floor, its screen displaying a single unread message. The message was short, chilling, and sent from Raj's own number. "You can't escape yourself." The case quickly went cold, the police baffled by the lack of evidence. Some whispered of a stalker, others of a break-in gone wrong. But no one could explain the message on Raj's phone, a final, eerie twist to a story already shrouded in mystery. Raj's fate remained a chilling enigma, a stark reminder that some doors are best left unopened, some secrets best left buried. The story of Raj's final days became a local legend, whispered in hushed tones, a cautionary tale about the dangers of a guilty conscience and the terrifying power of fear itself. Was Raj the victim of a stalker, driven mad by his own paranoia? Or was there something more sinister at play, something that defied rational explanation? In the end, the answers remained elusive, lost in the labyrinth of Raj's own mind. His story served as a chilling reminder that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones we create ourselves, the ones that lurk in the shadows of our past, waiting for the right moment to strike. And sometimes the most terrifying reality is the one we refuse to face.